Nancy Pelosi secretly want to see President Trump in prison? Yeah, probably. Border Patrol reports nearly 133,000 immigrants entered the country illegally last month alone. And according to new polling, the president may have his work cut out for him in 2020.
Team Rising is here. Jennifer Holdsworth, Democratic strategist and Senior VP of Issues Management for MWWPR Public Affairs. Henry Rodgers, Capitol Hill reporter at the Daily Caller News Foundation. Henry and Jennifer, welcome. Crystal, what is going on with Nancy Pelosi saying mean things about my main man?
You're shocked, aren't you?
I'm just so sad on the inside.
Okay, so this is Politica reporting. They say that during a meeting on Tuesday night with House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler, they were kind of debating how to move forward. Nadler has been a proponent of opening impeachment inquiries. Pelosi's obviously been trying to quash that. But reportedly, in this heated back and forth, she said, Jennifer, that she would like to see the president in prison. What do you think of that?
Wouldn't we all?
I think that's been a Democratic
like
fantasy
that
for a long
Henry.
time, honestly.
I mean, look, we're not
real.
chanting lock him up in public, but I think that
I love this lady.
I know you do.
you're gonna miss me so much. Look, I think that the president has been a unique threat to democracy since he emerged on the scene years ago. However, I don't think what the Democratic Party, led by Nancy Pelosi, is going to do is bend and torture the law in a way that's going to work to our political advantage. I think we're going to respect what the Mueller report says. I think that we're going to focus on the policies that are actually going to get us elected in 2020. And as much as all of our hearts may wish that the president wound up in prison because we think that he breaks the law on pretty much a daily basis and doesn't have any respect for the rule of law, that's not what's going to happen. Nancy Pelosi is not going to support or put impeachment on the agenda, and we're going to move on, and he's going to lose in 2020.
I mean, but are Democrats really respecting the Mueller report, first off? And second off, I think this shows a big divide in the Democratic Party here. You got Jerry Nadler, who's leading all these investigations now into the Trump campaign, into all the allies close to Trump. And then you have Nancy Pelosi, who's been saying this for months and months and months, trying to push behind closed doors with her people, saying, let's calm down on the word impeachment. Let's no longer use the word impeachment. And now she's saying, you know what? No, I don't want to impeach him. I'd rather see him in prison. I want him in prison. Like, that's pretty intense.
How long before there's a tweet about stone cold crazy Nancy?
We're going to see one probably
any minute.
any minute on the show or in the next couple hours. We're going to see one. But this shows a divide, in my opinion, and obviously Democrats are going to have to choose which side to go on. I mean, are we going to impeach the president and hopefully lock him up or send him to prison, or are we going to?
Well, I mean, that's even if they impeach him. Nancy yesterday was expressing some frustration with how ignorant many of the people that want impeachment are about what impeachment really means. They seem to think impeachment is like, he's done. Actually, impeachment is just like a proceeding in Congress that is going to result in really a whole lot of nothing beyond the censure of the president and the fact that he would be, as Bill Clinton was, impeached. Yeah.
Majority of the people that are calling for impeachment understand very well that that doesn't necessarily mean
Nancy Pelosi
removal from office. I think most people or most Democrats in the House know that it requires then a trial in the Senate and either an acquittal or a conviction.
I'm just telling you, Nancy disagrees with you.
She thinks the public.
That's what I'm talking about.
The public at large.
I'm saying Democrats
totally
in Congress,
understand what this all means.
But the other thing is that should we not do something simply because it's not going to be ultimately successful? I don't know. I think that's a lot of the questions that the members of the caucus are asking her. But I think Nancy Pelosi is 100% right in focusing on the policies for 2020 as of right now, and it has been for a while. This is a Beltway story. This is something for us to talk about.
I think the policies seem to be impeachment. I mean, the policies seem to be bringing the president down at all costs and before 2020, before the elections, in order to win the election. That seems to be.
I don't know if you remember this. Things move pretty quickly in this town, but I seem to recall a meeting about infrastructure that was blown up by the president, who threw a hissy fit and said he wasn't going to work with Democrats on anything, which is like a major own
You don't
goal
hear
in my
any
view,
of the Democratic 2020 candidates talk about impeachment to voters unless they're specifically asked by a member of the media. This is not
Many
something
of them came out, though, for impeachment.
Because they were specifically asked questions. When they're going to Iowa and New Hampshire and Nevada and South Carolina and California and Virginia, they're not talking about impeachment. They're talking about healthcare. They're talking about infrastructure. They're talking about education. They're talking about the embarrassment that the president is abroad to our allies and beyond. They're talking about things that voters actually care about. Impeachment is not one of them.
All right, Holdsworth, I'm going to get you talking about Democrats and Democrats for a moment here, which is going to be a little more fun
My
for me.
favorite thing to talk about.
Joe Biden's running some trouble. My colleague Crystal actually talked about it in her monologue this morning. He embraced the Hyde Amendment. He has other issues, from sniffing the backs of people's heads and et cetera, et cetera. He's got all this stuff. But that was an issue, I'm just saying. When does this become a problem such that he is no longer the clear front runner?
It doesn't.
It's just going to keep on going and go. Why is he so electable despite all, quote, electable despite all the problems? Aren't there? Why isn't Cory Booker electable? Why isn't Kamala Harris? Mayor Pete, who you obviously know very well. Why aren't those people electable?
I'm going to go
They
with
are.
racism and sexism.
They're all electable. In fact, I
Wait,
think
within the
most of
Democratic Party, you think it's racism and sexism?
Oh,
It's
for
the
sure.
Democratic primary.
That definitely exists in the Democratic Party, in addition to the Republican Party. I
what
mean,
did I
Crystal
just
and I
do?
are not gonna.
What have I just opened up now?
But I think they're all electable, and I think if you look at the polls, which I don't put much stock in right now, but majority of the Democratic Party candidates are leading the president in the polls.
Do you see anything
in
for
all
Biden
states.
that would be a problem, that will knock him off the top of the pedestal right now?
I think that it would take a significant performance in the debate by one of the other candidates to come close to the vice president. I think that he's going to continue to lead the pack all the way through the nomination. I think it's going to be interesting what happens in the early states. Conventional wisdom is that he will win Iowa. He may not win New Hampshire, but I think that he'll come close in South Carolina, and then he's going to run away with it. So in my mind, conventional wisdom is that the vice president is still going to take this nomination, but I do think that he will meet challenges along the way. I think the only thing that can overcome his lead, based on the fact that he's beloved, based on the fact that the entire Democratic Party respects what he and President Obama did during their administration, the fact that he spent 30 years in the Senate serving this country, that is what has him leading the pack right now. But if there is a significant performance, or one of these other candidates that's currently in the top tier, like Pete Buttigieg, like Kamala Harris, like Elizabeth Warren.
So it's debate performance.
I think that's
seems,
part of
that
it.
seems reasonable, but can you
I think
find
that's
other
part of
please?
it.
Why? I think Trump's obviously going to steal away this election. I've said from day one that I think Biden.
Well, he's used to stealing elections.
I think that Biden will. Feisty today. Biden will.
Every other day.
Biden will be the front runner. I agree with Jennifer, full front on that. But Trump, when they get to the debate stage, it's going to be a disaster. CNN came out with a poll yesterday. It was released. 54% of CNN, pollsters believe that Trump will win the election, and against Joe Biden.
At the same time, and I agree I think there's a good chance Trump wins re-election.
I do
look
too.
at the economic numbers.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
an incumbent there's a very good chance he wins re-election.
We're not tired of winning.
However, there is a slate of new polls out from swing states that has him losing significantly to Biden and Sanders in particular in the Midwestern states. In Michigan, there was a poll that had him down to Biden in Texas. But Jennifer, the thing I wanted to ask you, as someone who's working on a political campaign, I mean, you've worked with Mayor Pete, what do you think of Biden's strategy of basically laying low? I mean, this is a guy who's been out of the arena for a minute, right? And he's going to step onto the debate stage. All eyes are going to be on him, and he's got a pretty light schedule at this moment. Is that what you would advise?
It is. It's first do no harm. I think that he has a mastery of the issues that will be on full display during the debates. I think that he has very specific constituencies that he needs to speak to. But in terms of if he is the nominee in the general election, I don't think that any of us can accurately predict the punches that are going to be thrown in a general election at this point. I agree with you. I think if the election were held today, that the president would unfortunately get reelected. I think the economic numbers are a misnomer of sorts. I think Wall Street is doing very well. I don't think Main Street is doing very well. The tax cuts didn't actually wind up helping anybody.
Yeah.
So, and we can't really,
That's not
can't
gonna
really,
fly there,
That's
Chief.
really what the data
we can't
shows.
really, it really what the
not
data
true.
shows. We can't accurately predict the help that the president is going to receive from other, countries.
Henry, we got some new numbers from the border. Another surge in numbers. Arrests rose to nearly 133,000 in May. Surge continues. This is a 7-year high. And it strikes me there's two ways to look at this. I mean, number one, this was the president's signature issue, getting control of the border. He clearly hasn't done that. But on the other hand, he uses these elevated numbers to say there's a crisis and to justify, insane things like these tariffs he's proposing on Mexico. So he kind of uses it to his benefit, even though in my view, it looks like a failure.
I wouldn't call it a failure. I would just say that the crisis is becoming a serious crisis, and it needs to be fixed. And that's why Congress needs to get on board with President Trump and build this wall and continue to push for wall funding and to defend these agents who are at the border dealing with this on a day-to-day basis instead of smearing them, which they've been doing for the last 2 years. It's been a disaster for Democrats to do this campaign against ICE and to call President Trump a racist for wanting to protect the American country, for American people in the country. So I think that without a doubt, we're going to see after this election some steam pick up with the wall funding, and we're going to hopefully see some more stuff get built. I mean, you know.
Where are the Democratic candidates on what to do about this? I mean, I know you know what Mayor Pete thinks, but what the rest of them? Do they think that the numbers does it trouble them that there are 133,000 people? These are 90% of them by the numbers were not at ports of entry of the 133,000. So they're illegal crossings. They're caught crossing illegally in the United States. They're breaking the law. Democrats have a problem with it, or why not make it 500,000 a month?
It's not a matter of them having a problem with it. Yes, they're incredibly concerned that there are this number of, asylum seekers, whether they're filing affirmative asylum or defensive asylum when they get here, they're trying to escape something. So yes, Democrats think it's a problem. Democrats are concerned. But I think what this overarchingly shows about the president is that he's inept as a manager as we thought he was. He cannot get anything accomplished. And
is that his fault, though, or the courts that keep dropping universal injunctions that stop him from doing anything?
Oh, it's absolutely his fault, because any thinking Democrat knows that it's not just a wall that's going to fix this problem. It's about our policy towards Mexico. It's about working with the government to stem this flow.
That's Congress. What would you recommend the president do to deal with this problem?
I think that he needs to look at a variety of resources to stem this tide. Reducing resources at the border is not the answer, and that's currently what he's doing, because they're strapped for cash. Yes, we do need to support our CBP officers down there.
He doesn't have the power of the purse. This is a congressional issue.
You're telling me that the president doesn't have the power of to be able to direct resources to the border? I thought he declared
resources that are already allocated for the border, but he's not.
Additional resources need to be allocated to the border in terms of education, in terms of healthcare, in terms of making sure that CBP officers have the resources that they need in order to.
But what about the enforcement side? I mean, you're talking about processing the people that get here, keeping them safe. This is all very important.
We need additional asylum judges.
130,000 people a month.
We absolutely need additional asylum judges, and we need to make sure that the problem is being stopped where it started. We need to make sure that we are in discussions with the government of Mexico and other governments, and make sure that our foreign policy is helping them as countries. That's going to stop it at the source instead of dealing with it at the border.
I mean, Central America has had a lot of problems and a lot of poverty stretching back for many decades. The idea that the Trump administration is going to come up with some new foreign policy that's going to stop people from preferring to be in the United States to being in what is currently one of the murder capitals of the world in Honduras, I just think that that's a bit of a stretch.
I mean, we're talking about three little countries, right? Yeah. But we're talking about three little countries. I mean, you compare it to the problem that, say, Europe has, where they're dealing with essentially much of Africa, Middle East, Syria being number one, right? And even those numbers have gone down, but we're talking about three little countries. And under the Obama administration, they did, in fact, Henry, work very closely with those governments to try to make those countries more livable. I mean, we could talk for a long time also about the war on drugs and the way that that has exacerbated the violence in that region. But rather than even trying to stem the problem where it starts, we've just had this conversation about a wall, which doesn't really get at the root of the issue or deal with the people who are coming.
Trump tried a safe third country. He tried to start a safe third country party, safe third country program, and a judge stopped it and said you can't do that. And it was some procedural issue.
We're also conveniently forgetting the gangs that Republicans had control of Congress.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I will say that I think Paul Ryan and them should have got this done when we had control of the House and the Senate. I think that was a huge mistake by them for not pushing for this. But now we have to understand where we are, and we are at a disaster. We are at a crisis. It is a serious problem, and it needs to be fixed.
She can always poke me in this thing, by the way, because it's true. Because there are a lot of Republicans that talk tough on immigration when they want to get reelected, but actually they don't want to do anything.
No,
that's the big dirty secret.
And I will call them
out. There are a lot of them. I don't know how many.
I will call them out.
I can name some.
Yeah,
of course. The Chamber of Commerce.
I completely agree with you. It's ridiculous. And it's not what their voters elected them in office to do.
But on the other hand, they want to avoid meaningful reform because they want to use this as a bat to hit over the heads of Democrats when they run against them.
True.
Well, there's
all
that.
True statements.
I think we solved immigration, though. Well done, team.
Good job, guys. Write up a memo.
The president will be
send it right to the president.
He's going to be tweeting about this conversation shortly. Actually, Holdsworth,
I can
whatever he
only
says
hope.
to you,
I can
I
only
don't even want to know.
It'll be good for you. Don't worry.
Hashtag no holds barred Holdsworth.
Bring it on.
Wow.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.
Coming up, a tribute to the 75th anniversary of D-Day.
Including one veteran's high-flying salute to his fallen comrades. We'll tell you more before we go.